get to the fourth person there, who was called Abednego. So we remember, everybody always say Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego so much that people don't even remember their original names. We shouldn't be calling them Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We should be calling them by their original name. It means if we do that, then we are propagating or helping the idols to to establish their name. So, but the title here is given so that because of the quiz, but in actual fact, we should be using their original name. So the fourth person is called Abednego. Abednego means servant of the idol Nego. So you can see Nego in Abednego. So they are trying to say that this person is a servant of their idol Nego, which is a very, very abominable word to use. But Azariah in its original Hebrew name means the Lord is my helper. So look at what, in contrast, God is my judge, Daniel. God is gracious to me, Hananiah. God is without equal, Mishael. And the Lord is my helper, Azariah. And we pray that we may always remember to use these names, which are, sending praises to God and helping us to know that we identify ourselves as those who are godly. So those are the original names, and of where the three Hebrew and the fourth Hebrew, they are all four, and so on. So again, just to even add a little bit to this information that we are giving, the book of Daniel helps us to know that many Israelites were exiled into Babylon. And so while they were there, these four young men identified themselves as true Christians. Let's use the word for them. But the king of Judah was also exiled in that's the name we read in the first verse of it. In the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah. So he and the other Israelites were all taken to Babylon. And so, but these three Hebrew young men showed that by God's grace, they were going to remain faithful to God in spite of the new land that they had been exiled. So that's for help for us to know that even the king of Judah failed in his obedience to God. All right, question question 5 now, right?
So what are four names again for? Is the same as the three names?
No, Daniel, the original meaning for Daniel is God is my judge.
Yeah, I got that. I thought
But
about question 3 and question 4.
okay,
You asked
question 3, what were the original names of the three Hebrew young? Okay. So now let's read the rest of Daniel 1:7 so that we can see. So I stopped in the middle. I intentionally stopped because I didn't want to give away the answer until we reached there. So the second part of, I'll just read the whole thing to make it easier. Unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego, which means they gave them those names. That's verse 7.
Yeah, the question 3 there, right? That the three names for.
What were the original names? The original names of the Hebrew youngsters in the book of Daniel were Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Those are the original names.
Okay. So 4 is almost the same names too, or is different?
Oh, it's the same. All I was trying to say was that, well, I shouldn't have given out verse 7, that verse, but I gave it out. So I'm trying to explain the whole thing. So now it says, question 4 says, where are the four names of the youngsters found in the book of in the Holy Bible? So I made it vague that where in the Bible, even though I already said it in question 3. So the answer is still the same. Daniel 1:7. All right. So That's that. All right, question 4. It's already done, so you already have the answer. Let me see. Question 4 is already. Try to look it up, and instead of you looking it up, it's already said. Yeah. Question 5. When the king's servants brought food before Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, what did they refuse to do? A. Eat it. B. Throw it away once they were full. C. Share it. Or D. Bless it. A, B, C, or D. All right. So, Daniel 8, 1 8 says, But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. So A is correct. And the others refused to eat it. They wouldn't eat because the food was already defiled. And when we say defiled, what does it mean defiled? It may be helpful for us to know that since these people were idol worshippers, everything they ate had to be defiled, which means that they have to first say that, well, this food that we are going to eat, we dedicate it to our idol, this idol, Nego or Ku or everything, or Bel. So they would dedicate the food to the idol, and maybe, whatever they did, it was already defiled, it was already contaminated into idol worship. So they are already contaminated it. And so before they would now serve it to the three Hebrew children. So because they had meat in there, and the meat, we all know about this thing in Africa, how people will kill an animal and dedicate it and do some sacrificial thing they do, and then it is already contaminated. So when they brought it to the three Hebrew, or four of them, to eat, they said, "Oh no, we are not going to eat this." So that's why Daniel said, he asked for permission that, "Oh, please give me exemption. This food," he didn't say to them, he didn't tell them, but he only said that, well, but Daniel proposed in his heart that he will not defile himself. So if you say, that's part of the sermon that we are going to be talking about, that you say you are a Christian, what shows that you are a Christian? How are you serving God? When you are doing things and you mix, good and bad together, it becomes defiled, it becomes corrupted, it becomes contaminated. So that is what Daniel purposed in his heart, that he won't allow what they have done to defile his conscience. We say we have a conscience, but we allow things that is not supposed to be in our hearts, in our mind, and we go through that, and it becomes defiled. So that's what we need to be careful about, that we always ask God to help us, so that ways, things that we are involved with, it's not questionable, it's not defiled, it's not contaminated, it's not corrupted. All right, so that's what they did. They refused to eat it. A is correct. Question 6. What happened because these young men refused to do this thing? Which thing is in question 5? So the question is that since they refused, A, they were filled with knowledge. B, they got sick. C, they were sentenced to death. D, they were cast into prison. So the question is referring to question 5. What happened because these young men refused to do this thing, which means they refused to eat the food that was given to them? What happened because of their refusal? All right, let's go to Daniel 1:17 to see what is there. Daniel 1:17 says, as for these four children, you can see they are Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Well, if we need, let me see if the question is not in advance before okay. So I think I'll provide some context so that we can understand what happened between where we jump from verse 7 to verse 17. In verse 8 and following, when they were asked to eat defiled meat and contaminated meat or anything, they refused to eat it. But then they asked permission and said, please. And I think I'll read that so that we can understand what went on. And I'll jump to verse 12 to read. Okay, I will read it from verse 11 so that we can get a better understanding of what happened when they were asked to eat defiled meat. Verse 11 says, then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. You can see that the Bible is using their original names, and that's why we also should use. So Melzar was the supervisor assigned to them to ensure that they ate the food and they did everything. And then that's what was said. Then verse 12, Daniel said, again, verse 11, Daniel said to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Verse 12, please, I'm adding please so that we can prove thy servants, I beseech thee, that's in the same thing as 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat, and as thou seest, deal with thy servant. I'll continue reading. So he consented to them in this matter and proved them, which means tested them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their countenance, which means, should I say, it's plural, their countenances, which means the four children, proved or appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. So what is happening between these verses is that Daniel appealed to the supervisor and said, please, can you give us a break? We don't want to eat this food, but all we want to eat, just give us vegetables, give us greens, and just water to drink. Give us, just vegetable, any greens you can find, whether it's potato or anything, any vegetable. Just give us anything that is not meat and let us eat. Of course, the reason is that instead of meat that has been corrupted or contaminated, just give us vegetables. And instead of drink, which has been, you know how Africa, they pour libation and said, oh, this drink, they'll pour it a little bit down and do all the sacrifice, and said, instead of those drink, give us just ordinary water. Of course, in those days, and they felt that they needed to use drink instead of water. So water was not contaminated. The drink was. So Daniel prayed that just allow us to eat this vegetable, and then just test it for 10 days, just 10 days. And after 10 days, you can determine what to do. And then the man said, okay, I will test you for 10 days.